And no one thing is going to transform your life. It's a process. It's a journey where you have to address all of the possible roots, all of the possible issues, different forms of toxicity, emotional, mental, physical, right? Amalgam fillings. People have upper cervicals that are out of alignment. Josh, this is a massive problem on this planet.
What's up, everybody? This is Josh Trent with a special guest, Josh Macin from the Detox Dudes. Josh, happy Friday, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Thanks for having me on, Josh.
Our parents are really smart, by the way. They named us the biblical character who fought the Battle of Jericho. I don't know if people know that, right? It's funny we start this conversation with something religious. I don't consider myself to be a religious man, but I am in the same vein as you with what you do to serve your community from a spiritual lens. You know, you're a deeply spiritual man. We're going to talk about the truth about detoxification, but we're also going to blend it with Josh's story today. If you're watching this, let us know where you're watching it from. Have you yourself struggled with detoxification? Have you ever wondered, like, how do I get down to the truth in the ocean of freaking information out there? TheDetoxDudes.com, Josh has a firsthand account. He was a jiu-jitsu champion, Pan American Games champion. 2013 dealt with emotional issues, almost actually wanting to take his own life at multiple times. Like, Josh, it's such a special moment to be here with you, man. I met you in January this year with my lady, and we were down there exploring Kauai, and I saw this guy dancing in a little farm dance thing that we were both a part of. And I was like, he looks so familiar. And then it occurred to me, when I had my sinus issue, I watched your YouTube video without ever knowing I was going to meet you. And I was cleaning out my sinuses with the sinus rinse that you recommended. For people that don't know you, man, tell us, like, what is Josh's mission on planet Earth? Like, what's your mission right now in this moment with Detox Dudes and just with you as a soul?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I would say the grandest scale of my vision is to show people that anything is possible. To put very simply, to show people that anything is possible. And how I create that mission, or how I get to that mission, is through spiritual work and through detoxification. So I help people clean this channel, this vessel of consciousness, so that they can attune to the right frequencies. We're like a radio antenna, and most of us are operating on this AM 550 that's just a lot of noise, a lot of darkness, a lot of chaos, and we're not getting a clear message from divine, from God, from the universe, right? This channel that we want to operate on, that is our birthright to operate on. And so I believe firmly, strongly, with every cell of my being, that when we clean this vessel, we have a much easier time of attuning to the positive, loving frequencies of life.
Spoken like a true wisdom messiah. The reason I say that is because the way that messages come through, sometimes the messenger can turn people off. Many people right now are talking about what the world really needs, and you just encapsulated it in a few sentences. And that is, if our conduit is clean, and we're grounded to the earth, we're connected with our mother, the one that brought us here, the place that we come from, the world that we live in. If we're connected to that and the world within ourselves, well, then we can actually be the light, as you talk about in your story and on your site. That's powerful for me, man, because this has been a lifelong journey. You know, this podcast has always been and always will be about combining physical and emotional intelligence. And in the background of that, there's spirituality. There's our connection to source. One of the things you said on your site is, as a collective, we have to stop giving consent to limiting beliefs and diagnoses. I think this is a perfect jumping off point, because your story is profound. I mean, yesterday I was reading it, and it's like you wrote a book online about your story. And it's just one of the most challenging things I could ever imagine somebody going through, having to deal with issues that came out of nowhere when you were at the top of your game in athletics. Can you take
Yeah.
us back in a time machine, man, to that time for you? And it's great now because you can reflect, but in that
Mhm.
moment, it was pretty hard to reflect because you were dealing with the health issues that brought you to us now as a leader. But what was that moment for you? In 2013, I believe, is when it kind of began, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was October 2013. For the years prior to that, I was living in New York City. I won the world championships as a white belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in 2010. I won the Pan Ams in 2012 as a blue belt. I won the Abu Dhabi trials as a purple belt. I was on a world class trajectory in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I thought I was going to be one of the best black belts in the world. I knew that. I thought that deeply in my heart and in my soul. Um, and and then October 2013, I fell extremely ill in a matter of 2 weeks. Is when I went from being that guy to being basically a helpless lost boy,
Hmm.
curled up in my bed, begging God, who I never believed in up until that point, to let the pain stop. And the pain that I was experiencing was had changed over a 3.5 year period of time. But the long and short of it is that I was dealing with severe panic attacks, heart palpitations, anxiety, severe depression to the point where, you cannot go on another hour, another day. It's just agonizing to feel that level of anguish and suffering and torment. And at a certain point, after about a year and a half, my physical body also shut down on me. My digestive system stopped working. I started losing a lot of weight, and I couldn't function. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I was extremely constipated,
How much
and I
weight
was
were you
living.
losing, man?
The lightest I ever got down to, I don't know, because I was living in the Amazon jungle without a scale. But I would say that I lost about 30 pounds, 25 to 30 pounds from my healthy jujitsu weight. Yeah. And I was already lean and clean and like in fighting shape.
Yeah,
Right.
because I'm flashing back to your journey and like I'm sure you've probably been on a lot of shows and I know you've spoken at panels and this story that you have, it seems like you're so resilient about it. But the emotional connection with so many people that are even watching or listening to this, we had people yesterday talking about Lyme disease and talking about how they had amalgam fillings. And this is even before you came on the show. So I'm thinking about the man. You said that you were knocked down to your knees and it felt like you were a boy. When you were in that moment in 2013 and you were going through it, like, did you think this was some kind of lesson or you didn't even have that kind of awareness yet? I mean, you were
Yeah.
literally going through the trudges of the lesson.
No, yeah, I had no context, no awareness. It was life and death. It was what I thought was a break, a psychotic break. There was no positive spin on it. Okay. There was no way I could think, oh, there's some good coming out of this. It was only dark. It was only heavy. My mind and at the time, my body and my human could only understand the human of it, which was, oh my God, the next step is an institution.
Mm,
Like I'm fucked. Right.
yeah.
So there was no context. And I recognize now that the line between really someone who crosses that line and goes into an institution, between somebody who transcends and unravels this mystery and becomes someone who helps the community in terms of health and spirituality, is context. It's that line of context, uh, and so in that space, I was completely and utterly lost and terrified.
You
Yeah.
one thing you mentioned, and this is at detox2s.com. If you're just tuning in right now, this is Josh Macin, 2013 Pan Am Brazilian Jiu Jitsu champion, lost everything, lost his health, went to the Amazon. I think at one point, man, I was looking at your site. You said that you had been to the Amazon. Your second trip back in the day was 6 months of you living in the jungle. That's
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart. My buddy Chad Walding from the Paleo Secret and Native Path, he spent a month in the jungle and it changed his life forever. You spent 6 months in the Amazon jungle. Like, what in your heart made you take that path there?
Yeah, and then I went back a third time and I spent another month in isolation. Um, so The question was what made me decide to go there?
Yeah, there was some kind of spark in your heart. Was it desperation? Was it
It
empowerment?
was it was desperation. I had seen and met a lot of people in the Western world up until that point, psychiatrists, doctors, friends, a lot of well-trained individuals, psychologists, therapists, and none of them I felt matched by. And it's not an ego matching. What it is like an energetic resonance of like this person has been through this. They get this other than reading it in a textbook. They can look at me in the eye, sink in with me and be like, "Hey, I've crossed these neurological pathways. These portals have opened for me
Yeah.
and I've closed them. Let me show you how." Right? I never felt that. It was all just like, yeah, it's probably depression. It's probably this. And I'm just like, how can I receive that? I'm suffering immensely right now. I can't receive that.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me. I can't rest on thought. I can't rest on a textbook. I can't rest on a concept. I need to feel in a human being who's walked this walk, right? And Josh, I can tell you're an amazing interviewer because I have the chills in my body, and that only happens when someone takes me into an emotional state of my journey. And a lot of interviewers miss this piece. They just let me cruise through without
Right.
getting into the emotions of it all.
Yeah,
So,
man.
so
Well, we're
yeah,
brothers like that because I felt a kindred spirit with you when I first met you in Kauai. We were dancing, and it's
yeah.
funny, like the universe peppers in clues for us to walk this path. And
Hmm.
when I had done the sinus, I had actually had surgery. You were one of the people that I consulted with online without ever even knowing you. And so it's perfect timing that you and I are here talking about the emotional journey to go down to the jungle, which is really where the plants give us the most healing.
Yes, yes. So I decided to go there because online I was reading this stuff about the shamanic initiation, about, mental illness versus shamanic initiation, about how ayahuasca purged people of their demons and all of their deepest wounds. And I said to myself, my soul, my spirit knew this is deeper than just simply a chemical imbalance. I need to explore the spiritual roots. I need to understand what's going on, right? I've had weed experiences where I tripped out. I want to understand what's going on
Yeah.
out there in me as well. So that was my pull to the jungle. And then once I was there, the shamans themselves were the tether, the anchor that kept me there. They they have a they have a wisdom in their eyes that Westerners do not carry for the most part.
Sure.
American born people who grew up in our environment, there's something in their eyes that is so deep, it's so wise, it's so multi-generational. They carry so many codes in their system, and I believed I could trust them. I rested on them.
There's something that you can't fake. You know, we always talk about these three phases of intelligence on Wellness Force. And, we gather information, we apply and test, and then lastly, we embody. These shamans that you're speaking about and people that have ever done any kind of plant medicine or just been led through any kind of journey at all, they can attest to what you're saying. Like, there's something you feel from a shaman that is trust and that is really connected to some source, the spirit, the intelligence that drives us all. Like, you can't fake that, man.
Yes, you cannot. You cannot. Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely a space where you were in where you said, okay, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust spirit. But weren't you angry at God for the fact that these things even occurred? I know I was when I was young. I had so much anger towards God. I thought that God was just like a joke, really.
I was angry at God in for different phases of this journey. And while living in the jungle, I was able to not go into that space because the ayahuasca was able to connect me to glimmers of hope, to
Mm.
glimmers of the bigger mission. Like I remember having these experiences under ayahuasca where the plants and the moon would just tell me, keep going, keep going. You're doing deep work, brother. You're doing really deep work. Keep going. And then the ceremony would end, and I'd be like, that was just my ego. Like, the moon doesn't know who the fuck I am, you know?
Yeah.
So, so these experiences would allow me to like see. God, to see divine, to connect to the earth, to the spaceship of earth, to connect to the fact that I was literally this creature on earth, transcending, unraveling all of the karma and all of the faulty neurological pathways, all of these faulty blueprints that have been passed down from many, many, many generations. I felt in my bones, I'm Jewish, I felt that I was healing the Holocaust
Hmm.
through my body, through the work that I was doing. And I felt that as a collective and individually, that I was unraveling and changing the tide of all of this darkness, all of this chaos, all of this war and famine and poverty, and moving it back into a world of an Atlantean era where we are abundant, where we are in love, where we have connection and peace and everything we need. This paradise that is this earth, this DNA seed bank of earth that is meant to be like a Garden of Eden. And I felt like, oh, okay, I guess in this lifetime, my goal and my mission is to bring whoever I can back there and myself back there,
Yeah.
right? As close as we can get before we die.
This is what you've been doing with your retreats and all the ways that you're helping people across the planet, man. You help people across the world, which is another reason why I'm so grateful. This podcast is special to me because when I looked into your work and I started to understand literally how much you got to detox yourself from, it took you from Western medicine where they couldn't heal you. You took, I think it was like 3.5 years, 7 different pharmaceutical drugs that you had taken in. None of this stuff worked. You got to the point where you wanted to take your own life. And then that's when everything kind of turns you towards the medicine, right? That medicine of truth that you got in the jungle. Do you remember what it was like when you first
Yeah.
went down to the jungle? Like, were you feeling fear, excitement?
Yeah, I was terrified my entire experience in the jungle. The jungle is actually not the deepest healing balm for me and my soul. It was actually detox and some other spiritual work that I engaged in after the jungle that really transformed my life. Though I must say, the jungle was like a boot camp that stripped me naked,
Yeah.
initiation.
Yeah.
So the jungle was transformational because it stripped away all that I thought I was, all of my ego, all of this Josh that was a fighter, the Josh that was, good with women, the Josh that made money, all the things that I attached to, it just sliced that apart, right?
Yeah.
Stripped me naked and spit me out. And so the jungle was terrifying for me. I drank ayahuasca about 32 times or so, and for my last ever ceremonies were all in isolation while doing a dieta, an apprenticeship with two shamans in Cantamana, which is very, very, very remote. I had no human contact. I was a 30-minute walk inside the jungle with no human contact other than the shamans. And it was just hilarious. They would call me, Josu. They couldn't pronounce my name, even though I knew them for like 2 years at this point. It was based on all my experiences. It was Amigo Josu, and they would laugh at everything. I was like suffering immensely. And this lady Celestina, who I did my dieta with, who many of your audience will probably know who she is because she's worked with a lot of Westerners.
Okay.
And she would just say, "Hola, ¿qué tal, Josu?" And I would just be like, "Muy malo, very, very bad, very
Yeah.
bad." And they would laugh. Everything was funny to them. "Oh, okay, Josu, hasta luego." Like,
Oh man.
no hay problema. They would just laugh at everything because they saw the tapestry of life. That if I went crazy, okay, great. If I died, okay, great. If I made it and transcended it, okay, great. To them, it was all just like the tapestry of life.
What do you
Um,
feel like? And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just had this beaming question come through. What do you feel like for most people stops them from ever going down that path of really getting to the emotional detoxification, spiritual detoxification? I don't care if you believe in entities or not. Like, there is dark and light in this world. And so if we're going to be the light that you talk about on your site and in your mission, what is it, man, that from clients and people in your programs that actually blocks them from having the courage like you had to go down to the
mhm.
jungle or to go into their own personal jungle?
Let me tune into that for a second. I think people assume that facing the shadows and their darkness is scarier than having it linger in the closet for the rest of their life. Personally, I think it's scarier to have it in the closet for the rest of one's life. Um, I think people are terrified of their own power, of their own force of nature inside of them, of the elements inside of them, of the sheer life force inside of each human being. If we understood how much is possible in this lifetime to have access to inside of our belly, inside of our heart, inside of our third eye, it would shatter your body if you had access to it all in one moment. If it wasn't a gradual process, it would explode your body. So I think people are terrified of how complex and extraordinary and magical this body and this lifetime is.
Oh man, I just got chills from my teeth to my toes when you said that, because if we were brought into this world and we remembered who we were, you know, in the Logos, they talk about we all drink from the river of forgetfulness. And we come into this world and we remember who we are. It's a gradual process, like you speak about. Why is it that you were chosen to have these mucoid plaques and health issues and suicidal depression? And like, why you? Like, what is it about your soul's mission here? And so many people that deal with crazy illnesses, crazy diseases. What is it about you, man, that makes you like chosen for this line?
I would say there are many of us, many individuals on the planet who are canaries in the coal mine. You know the expression,
Sure.
yeah? Okay, so this is essentially what we've been called down here, is to show the earth and show humanity everything that's happening. We just show it to them faster, sooner, quicker, more intensely. Everything that happened to me, with which we can get into what went down.
Sure.
Should I go into that now or?
No, we'll go into it in a minute, but I just
Okay,
want to share
sure.
with people like what the emotion
Yeah.
behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're a maestro at the interviews. I'll let you do your thing. So, all right. So, so canaries in the coal mine, right? Like, I'm just showing people what's happening on a global basis, on a human basis, and it happened to me in a very, very, very extreme way. I have access to my soul and to kind of where I came from and to what I came down here for. So I believe I can answer that in a really deep way.
Mm.
But what I'll summarize it with, like, imagine imagine there was this council of people that said, okay, from a planet, and they said, guys, we have to send some people down to go through this insane initiation to deal with some intense dark energies and come out into the light and help other people walk this walk. Who wants to do it? And somehow, for some reason, I was just like, me,
I'll do
like,
it.
I would love to do it. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
It sounds like my
It's almost like
my
Hunger Games where she's like, I'll be the tribute.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I chose it, and I guess I have some reservoir of life force and determination and will inside that I was able to tap into in order to get through this. Because without those forces inside, without that will, I definitely wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. I love the way you can go back through that. Let's go into what it actually was from a health and biological perspective, because we all know that not anybody can just go down to the jungle and spend a month or 6 months and all this time. So many people here on Wellness Force, they come to us for healing. I mean, shoot, my whole mission is to share about my own healing. We're all healing. We all come to this planet with some kind of contract, and we spend the rest of our lives unraveling it and being with it. So from a biological perspective, what were you dealing with? Was it the heavy metals? Was it just the detoxification of our modern world? There's so much misinformation out there, but like, you've been through it yourself.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many ways to answer that question. What I would say is that I was definitely dealing on a 3D in a 3D level down here from a medical perspective. I was definitely dealing with these labels of mental illness. They
Yeah.
were very real. They were
Yeah.
very true. And I was truly walking that line of what would be considered madness or schizophrenia, whatever label they want to use for that too. I was really losing it. Okay. I was experiencing vision. I was having hallucinations. I was hearing things. I was just lost in this morphic space of darkness, like getting lost in the sauce. Okay, the expression. And So that's what I was dealing with on a very surface level. And when I took it down deeper with my own will, with my own on my own agenda, irrespective of what anyone told me, I recognized that it was indeed an initiation. And the initiation had multiple parts of it was shamanic in nature. It was teaching me how to experience the dark world and come out of it and be tethered to that shadow world in order to have the life force from that dark world. I feel very anchored in the shadows. I don't run away from my shadows. I embrace them. I talk to them. I ask them. I question them, right? So, but what it was on a another level was severe toxicity. Okay, severe toxicity, parasites, heavy metals, chemicals, and most specifically mercury.
Wow.
Mercury was
All
a
at
heavy,
once, all of these things
all of
amalgamed.
these things all amalgamated, which is amalgam, the mercury fillings,
Yeah,
right?
isn't that funny?
This was all an amalgamation of all of these things, deep, deep, deep samskaras, the dark energies trying to take me into the dark, not allowing my light to come through on this planet,
Yeah.
like almost like bright lights are just beaten at a young age because by dark forces because they don't want you to shine. They don't want you to be a bright beacon in this world, right? And it was the heavy metals, and it was the psychiatric potential conditions, and it was deep, deep. I think I mentioned this: deep samskaras and wounds.
And what is a samskara for people that don't know?
A samskara is a Sanskrit word for, I believe it stands for wound, but essentially it's like imagine your soul going through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, accruing these particular flavors of wounds.
Ah,
And that each lifetime that you don't decharge the samskara, it'll get stronger and stronger and stronger until in one lifetime, the only way you can, resonate with that samskara is to be like a general in an army and get murdered and slaughtered. And then your samskaras always fit this certain pattern, this certain pathway. And then when you decharge them, you have more free will because samskaras are this spectrum of free will exists with samskaras. Like for instance, if you had road rage and you know that situation where you just get overtaken by something during road rage,
yeah.
that's a samskara, right? You lose yourself in samskaras. You lose free will to a certain degree,
Yeah.
right? So the samskaras are these wounds that come with us from many, many lifetimes, and they carry the same flavor. And then in this lifetime, you have to have experiences that can match that samskara.
So one of your
Yeah.
samskaras was having 5 toxic pathways all in your nervous system, in your physiology at once.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
most people are dealing with massive amount of toxicity
Do you think
in
that all
general.
people are dealing with some percentage of what you were dealing with, or no?
Absolutely, 100%. It's impossible not to. The chemicals that are in our tap water, the amalgam fillings, the vaccinations, the seafood, all of the products, the makeups, the foods, the GMOs, the pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers, it's all synthesized chemical-based products that we are inundated with on our skin, in our mouth, in our bodies, and it affects us on a deep biochemical level because we are creatures of the earth and we are meant to be using earthly, natural products from this earth. We're not meant to be synthesizing things for maximum profits, minimum costs, maximum turnaround, right?
Mm.
These products aren't even as effective as nature's products, right? So that's a whole other subject, but yeah.
Well, most people don't realize that pharmaceuticals are pulled from the Amazon, from nature herself, from the tools that are out there for us to take naturally. Yet we live in a society that is so psychotic. Really, there's a psychosis when it comes to year over year over year growth, Josh. And in nature, you tell me, brother, when in nature is there ever 100% year over year growth? It doesn't exist.
Doesn't it?
And so when we ignore the laws of nature and we ignore and we start using capitalism through an unconscious lens and we start taking advantage of our brothers and sisters and walking on the backs of our brothers and sisters in the name of profit, That's actually a detoxification that we're currently experiencing right now. You know, this phrase detox that you're so famous for across the world, the detoxification you went through, I feel like prepared you to really speak about all the ways that we need to detox in this world, not just from our bodies, but spiritually and economically and the way that we're treating our Mother Earth. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. It's a big subject. We are raping and pillaging this earth, and we are doing the same to our bodies, and we are losing connection to our ancestors, to our old ways, to our lineage, to earthly law. You know, monocropped farms are this thing that exists right now where we have just one crop going on an entire farm, and that crop pulls the same minerals out of the soil every single time, and it's grown year round, abusing the land, abusing the soil. We're left with 1/16 of the amount of minerals in a carrot today that we had 20 years ago because of this concept of not allowing land to rest, because of this concept of monocrop farms, right? Everything we're doing is chasing, is an agenda of profits, capitalism, as you say. And this is not the way we're meant to live, right? And coronavirus and the quarantine and all of this is actually in some way taking us closer to that, I hope.
Yes,
It
me
is
too.
allowing introspection, it is allowing people to reflect on the way we've been pillaging the earth. And I guess people just don't realize how much we're harming ourselves by harming the planet. I guess people are just stuck in this money mindset or this profit paradigm. And there's so much there. But what I can say is that through my pain and through my suffering, I've discovered and I've learned that all that matters is love, peace, fun, joy, transformation, healing, being in one's center, being connected to the divine, being connected to the earth. These are the only things that matter in life. And it takes pain for people to get there.
Yeah.
It takes pain and suffering for people to recognize what they are as a creature and what they truly, truly value and what they truly want. Most people think that they want money and want to chase these things. It's only because they have no love inside. When you have access to love, you don't want any of these other things. If the most painful, agonizing thing in the world is being disconnected from source, it's torture to be disconnected from source. I can't blame people for crazy actions, for pillaging or whatever they people continue to do. To some degree, me as well. I'm using a gas car. I still am not perfect, but but you know, and I don't recycle. I haven't been recycling recently. You know, like there's a lot of improvement I
The
can do as well.
confessional.
Yeah, I want to be making sure
Right.
I'm not sharing that I'm just some sort of idolist, you know,
Yeah.
uh, living this perfect walk. But to fall from grace in that way that many of us did at a very, very young age, to be disconnected from that love, to not have that love frequency inside, it's agonizing.
Many of our ancient masters and even contemporary, Josh, they all say the same thing. And it's exactly what Lao Tzu speaks about. And it is the middle way. At some point in life, people go to the dark side to feel what the dark actually is. And then at some point in life, some people choose to go and just do vipassanas and be some type of a white robe wearing person on a mountain. But there is this middle path, you know, and one of the things on your site that you wrote that is like a testament to your work and your mission is you quoted Rumi, and it was, "The wound is the place where the light enters you."
Yes.
So I have to ask you this question, like, if we don't ever get wounded, if we don't ever come from a threshold of pain, how are we ever supposed to know either where the light pours in and then the light even lives within us?
I feel like a lot of individuals who don't have deep wounds, they have a lot of light, but they may not be conscious of their own power in that light or aware of how they can use that light. I know a lot of people, friends who have this way of being that's just sort of not wounded. They've never really gone through anything. And personally, I think it's boring when someone's like that. Right? No judgment. I'm just a little bored by that
Yeah.
paradigm.
The
That
story's not as rich.
it's just not as rich. It's
Yeah.
you all the none of the movies are custard like in that way, where people are just like, like have an easy way, right? That's not what we like watching in movies. And this life is a movie, right?
Yeah.
So it is a little boring to me, but no judgment. And what I see is that a lot of these individuals have amazing light about them. But when you haven't had to fight for it, when you haven't had to claim it, when you haven't had to incarnate all of your strengths down in order to get it and win it,
Yeah.
then you don't have it as a tool quite the same. You don't have access to it in quite the same way where you can just shoot it to somebody or deliver it or you know alchemize with it, right? It's more of just kind of fused into your body and you live and breathe it, but not really quite sure how you're using it.
Well, people look at you now like you speak from a place of true experience, and there's a lightness when you speak. There's a groundedness when you speak. I love you're one of the few guests that just takes a breath when you answer a question, and it's this beautiful reminder to all of us here with you in this bubble right now. Even the multiple people watching online with us right now, like it's okay to take a breath. Like we can give ourselves permission to take a breath. If we don't have our breath, no detoxification, no awareness, no inventory, no presence can ever come through. Have you used breath as a tool for detoxification? And then I'd love, Josh, to get into a little bit more of the science behind how you healed yourself too.
Sure. Yeah. Breath is the central anchor, right?
Yeah.
That's the one thing that has saved my life. What I saw in the jungle in my darkest days, just demons everywhere. In my ceremonies, just darkness everywhere, torture in every cell in my body. When I was in that corner of suicide or what else? There's two options. It was imagine in this corner, this fork in the road. There wasn't even a fork in the road because I couldn't go backwards.
Mm.
It was a corner. One way was suicide. The other way was breath. It's all I had. No thoughts could take me out of my hell. No change in paradigm. It's okay, Josh. I love you, Josh. Don't worry, Josh. You're safe. Whatever I went, only the breath. Only the breath could take me out of the hell or pause the hell for a moment. So that breath is that central anchor and thread that keeps me grounded, has kept me grounded. And I've done a lot of breath work practices and all of that, Wim Hof and Soma breath work and a lot of other things.
Oh yeah, I did the Soma with Niraj for a month in Thailand.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was an incredible experience, man. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because how many people here with us can just take a deep breath with us right now? Like, would you be down to do that? Can we take a deep breath together and just let go of some stress right now? It's such a beautiful reset. And if you just took a breath, let us know you took a breath and take three more. Take three more if you're with us there too, because, some of the stuff that we're going to explore in the rest of the show is pretty heavy and it's the reality of where we are. And we can't face any kind of threshold unless we're breathing. We can't face danger unless we're breathing. So you faced danger from a biological level where you had the mercury, you had all kinds of things going on. Biologically, can you share with us what was going on for you and so many people that don't even know?
Yeah, totally. I just want to make a quick comment on that breath piece. It's like I learned through all this spiritual journey that it's not so much the words that we say, whether it be on interviews or in conversations or this or that, that gives people this fear like they have to answer quickly or they
Yeah.
have to have the right answer. There's actually a space that exists with each human being as they deliver their words. There's a space of consciousness that lands, right? And the space is what people intuitively feel, you know?
Yep.
And the space doesn't require words. There's interesting. I just saw a mouse. I've never seen a mouse in this house. We should look at mouse medicine, whatever that may mean.
Somebody write in the comments, what does it mean when you're speaking the truth and a mouse shows up?
What does a
what
mouse
is what
mean?
does that mean?
Okay. I'm talking about the breath. Never
Okay.
saw a mouse in this house. Okay. Um, so the what I went through, all right, Josh.
Yeah.
So 3.5 year experience, torturous, suicidal depression, panic attacks, anxiety. And I eventually, I'm at the point where I'm going to either take my own life or I'm going to go take Iboga in Africa. Okay. And I was 48 hours away from getting on a plane to go take Iboga as my last ditch effort. And if Iboga didn't serve me, I was going to fast in the woods of Gabon, in the forests of Gabon until I died. I had a very clear end of life mission there because I was done.
Jesus.
And 2 days away from getting on that plane, the shaman was paid for, everything was paid for with credit cards. I was broke at the time. I learned about mercury poisoning. And when I learned about mercury poisoning, the woman who I learned, who experienced something similar to me, her name is Connie Fox, and she's an angel, and I love her. Just love sharing her message. If you want to go check her out, her story was the only story I had ever read that resonated with me. Of all of the books I read, of all of the people I talked to, it was the only thing that I resonated with. And I broke down in tears in my basement, and I called my mom down, and I called my dad on speakerphone, and I said, guys, you were about to lose your son. I was about to go to Africa to take Iboga. I finally found out what's wrong with me. And they're like, yeah, sure. After 3.5 years, oh, now you found out? Because I kept telling them, yeah, I know what's up now. I know what's up now.
This is when you're going through suicidal waves.
Yes, yes. And I said, I have mercury. Yeah, but I just kept going to the jungle, or I did other hallucinogens.
Like a temporary reprieve.
So nothing I brought to them as far as, oh, I think I figured something out. They didn't trust me anymore, right? No longer trusted me. So I said, I have mercury poisoning. I know I have mercury poisoning. Read this story. This is what I'm going through. What other person on the planet experiences pain when a cabinet door closes? When a refrigerator door closes? What other person experiences systemic nerve pain like I went through? And I got mercury tested. The mercury levels were off the charts. And I began to understand the magnitude of what mercury does to a system. And I went through a huge process with detoxifying mercury. Mercury fries the myelin sheath. It fries the nerves. It destroys the brain. And combined with other metals, destroys the brain. Okay? And there's a lot to talk about here, but essentially I went through a detoxification process of chemicals, of metals. I crapped out 500 plus parasitic worms, tapeworms, rope worms, roundworms. Many may say, oh, you caught those in the jungle. Let me tell you something. 9 out of 10 of my clients have physical, visible worms coming out of their stool when they work with me.
People don't want to accept that as truth right now.
They cannot accept that.
How many people watching this probably have, percentage-wise, you think? I know we're pontificating, but have worms.
Look, I think personally, I think 100% of us have parasites. I think that 9 out of 10 of us will physically see worms. The other 10% may just have some, very microscopic imbalances of flora and bacteria and et cetera, right?
It's fucking mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing until you see it. My clients once they see one worm come out, ropeworm, roundworm, liver fluke, everything changes. Everything changes. Their whole world just opens up, and they say, "Holy shit, I can't believe it."
Wow.
Right?
Oh my God. So you're having all this stuff come out, but what were you taking to make it come out? The metal, the parasites.
So the process that I went through was it was roller coaster, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of learning. In hindsight, what I would say to give people the right advice and not steer them away, give them the roller coaster ride that I went on.
Yeah.
One must begin with gut healing. Things like acacia fiber, slippery elm bark powder, okay, licorice root, butyric acid, glutamine, aloe vera, purple cabbage juice, all these substances that heal the mucous membrane, fulvic acid, humic acid. Okay, check out Dr. Axe's work on the tight junctions. You probably even had him on a show at this point.
Not yet.
Okay, you got to get him on.
Yeah.
Restore for Life. Okay, it's a great supplement. Healing the gut and the mucous membrane, the tight junctions in the gut. Once that is taken care of, binders. Things like clays, charcoals, zeolites, chlorella. Okay, the chitosan. These substances are like vacuums that go into the intestines and grab positively charged pollutants. positively charged metals, chemicals, other substances and toxins. Most most substances that are toxic, that are pollutants, are positively charged. This is why you ever heard the expression to go run after a lightning storm? The lightning is negatively charged and ionizes the air. You have a negative ion generator in the home. Negative ions, the generator sends negative ions into the air, grabs onto positively charged dust particles. It settles onto the ground, and then you vacuum the carpet. And that's how negative ion generators clean spaces, right?
Wow, this is the same way we love the beach. We love the beach for the
Same
same
way we
reason.
love the beach. Same way I love this electron machine. I have a machine that pumps electrons into my feet. Okay.
This is the I wouldn't expect anything less from Josh Macin.
I have so many gadgets in this
Oh my
house.
gosh.
Um, and so these binders are negatively charged, and they go in and they we don't digest these substances. They grab the positively charged pollutants, and then it, like a vacuum, goes down and down and down and allows for evacuation. Okay. Once that phase is complete, I like taking people into antimicrobial process where we take substances like garlic, noni, rosemary. People can do suppositories where they take herbs rectally.
Why do you do them rectally? Because from what I've heard, it bypasses the normal digestive process. So does it go up to the hepatic portal vein? Is that what's going
Yes,
on with that?
exactly. Once it hits the liver, it's systemic. It's in your blood and it's systemic. You can taste herbs within 20 minutes of taking them rectally.
Were you doing
Some
coffee enemas as well, or what's your view on coffee enemas for detox?
coffee enemas are great, awesome. They're great technology. There's ways of making coffee enemas way more badass.
Okay.
So you like sulfur, salt, iodine, a little bit of iodine, some other substances in there where you can make coffee enemas twice, three times as effective, but they are awesome. And I've done thousands of coffee enemas.
And I'm sure you have guides. Actually, I saw you have a free course. You're giving, I don't know how you afforded to do this. You're taking people through a free course with free manuals and a free guided video process at the
Yeah.
detoxdudes.com.
Yeah.
Is that cover a lot of ground of which you speak as far as like the biology and the supplementation and things like that?
Yeah, if for people to get started, that is an amazing place. I teach people the fundamentals of detox, all the things that need to get put in place before you embark on a detox journey.
Okay.
I take people through a 5-day resurrection if they want to do a 5-day juice resurrection where they can cleanse old fecal matter from their system. Um, yeah, it's definitely an amazing place to start. And the reason I can afford to do this, quote unquote, is because when people see what detox does, then I'm a coach for life for them.
Yeah.
I have a client for life.
And what's really special too is like if you're just tuning in right now, this is Josh Macin, 2013 Pan Am Jiu-Jitsu champion, almost lost his life due to mental illness, and that mental illness was caused from detox, not detoxing, heavy metals, things like this. So if you've ever dealt with something like this in your life, let us know in the comments. I'm sure that Josh and I can go through and look at some of these comments when we're done. Many people, Josh, are dealing with some form, maybe not as drastic, but definitely, man, some form of what you've gone through. As a starting point, yes, they can go to Detox Dudes, but there has to be an inflection, like a decision they make inside of themselves first. What advice or what guidance can you give to people that are dealing with amalgam fillings or toxicity or heavy metals, or just there's something that they're sick and possibly dying from? Where do they go mentally first, emotionally first?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. First I would say that I hope my words and my frequency can open that up, the portal for an individual. It's like a resting point of, guys, I've been there, I've done that. Hopefully they can feel this as truth, right? I hope that to be the case, because I can't convince anybody of anything. What I would say is that it is our birthright to be feeling good on this planet, to not to be feeling good all the time, because this planet is light and dark. There's pain. There's a lot that we have to alchemize. This planet is messy. But if you don't feel vibrant in that journey, if you don't feel on average like you're on top of your wounds or your pains or your fatigues or your sufferings, if you don't feel like you're living on top of it, churning through it, then you're not in your given birthright, which is vitality, okay, which is health, which is vibrance, okay. And what I would suggest for people is to just check in with themselves. What have they been putting into the machine? Whatever you put in this machine, you get.
Yeah.
It's an equation. What we put in, we get. And I learned that through the jungle. I learned that through the plant medicines of eating terrible foods and then or overeating and then watching as ayahuasca, just purged it out of me, right? All of the crap that I ate and the chocolate and this and that, right? And so my point is that this is a machine and we have to take care of it. We have to maintain it. Whatever we put in, we get out. And all of these things are cumulative in terms of making us weak and tired and sick. And no one thing is going to transform your life. It's a process. It's a journey where you have to address all of the possible roots, all of the possible issues, different forms of toxicity, emotional, mental, physical, right? Amalgam fillings. People have upper cervicals that are out of alignment. Josh, this is a massive problem on this planet. If there's a piece of advice I can give to people is to get your upper cervical checked, the C1 vertebrae. If that is out of alignment, your brainstem is being suffocated on a regular basis. And many people have had accidents that took this out. And it took me years to learn about that.
Is this having to do with Atlas and the Atlas
Yes.
being out of alignment as well? I've
Yes.
heard of different chiropractors that specialize in this. What does that do? What does
Yes.
that do to people?
This is a life-changing body of work, and it's the C1 vertebrae, which is the atlas. C2 is the axis. Both of these are, one in particular is like a circuit breaker. When there's 1 or 2 or 3 millimeter misalignment in the atlas, there's pressure being put on the brainstem. The brainstem connects to every single nerve makes its way up to that brainstem, right? It's like a biochemical circuit breaker. When pressure is being put on the nerves or on the brainstem, the system cannot function properly. And most people have these micro misalignments in their upper cervical, and the rest of their body is compensating for all of these years, and the system cannot function properly. And through jiu-jitsu, I had a misalignment, and when I got put back in, it was like a breath of fresh air, like just a rewiring of like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to feel good. I'm not
Oh.
supposed to be in this shithole.
Dallas Michael said, being sick has long since become the norm. Ain't that the truth? People don't know how good they feel unless they start to feel a new baseline of good. And you actually wrote this on your site, which is perfect timing. You said, we'll never know how much toxins we have in our body unless we start detoxifying our body. In other words, like you ever feel sore, but you don't know you're sore till somebody touches you? It's the same thing. We're all living our lives from the neck up. Bro, you're bringing people heart to head connected. You're allowing people to live from the neck down and the neck up. Why do you think that people right now are coming to you? It seems like your business continues to grow. Your popularity continues to increase. Your programs, your registrations for the events you're doing in person seem to be continually going up. What is the call to arms? What are people feeling right now?
What I've noticed during this coronavirus is pretty incredible. That I have had people coming from every direction, old friends, people I haven't talked to in years, with curiosity about detoxification. And I think what's happening is that as people are forced to sit with themselves, they recognize the things that they're doing in their life that are harming them. The diet, the substances that they're consuming, the drugs, etc. And I think as we are left with ourselves, we come closer to truth. And I know that detoxification is a truth. It's a universal truth. It's like beyond my ego, beyond my desires, beyond my business. It's like guys, this is just real. It's just plain and simple. I don't have to convince anybody of it. I know in my heart and my soul, detox is essential, critical, not just my detox, any practitioner, any YouTube channel that you find out there that's focused on cleaning this vessel.
Yeah.
It's truth. It's part of truth. Okay. And so what I think people are accessing the fact that they need to clear this vessel if they want to operate at a high level. Their colon needs to be clear, their organs, their liver, their tissues, their brain needs to be clear for them to increase that homeostasis in their system. So I'm seeing a tremendous amount of people on the planet waking up to this, and why they. I think part of your question was why. What are they seeing in me, or what are they believing in me? I hope to be somebody who carries integrity and truth in this department, who wants people to see for themselves, know for themselves, who's not here to sell you something for the sake of selling you something. I'm here to show people, and hopefully you can hear it in my voice and feel it in my being, that for all the years of almost dying, like it's impossible for me not to want to give back, not to want to hold people's hand or lift them up in that hole. Because especially because I believe that individuals in that hole, this is one of my core beliefs, Josh, is that people who go that dark, who suffer that immensely, have massive gifts for the planet. They have massive gifts for humanity. And I believe that if we help individuals like that, who are walking that line, who are really suffering, who are really in bad spaces, that is a really powerful way that we can help humanity. Because these individuals, as they used to call it, a shamanic initiation, they used to sing to these individuals, and the village would help them and call upon the spirits to help them and feed them, and instead of locking them up in an institution, right? And like we do here, right? And so I do work with individuals who are in really, really dark spaces. And I also work with people who are just looking to optimize, right? Who are looking to take their life to the next level. And I've seen detox help both spectrums there. So
I just got multiple shows when you're sharing, because so many things to unpack, Josh. Each 5 minutes of this show is like a miniature show of its own, because the way that you speak about your experience is, to me, brings up a hero's journey. This complete and total circular experience that continues to repeat on and on and on. And that is initiation, some kind of separation before it, and then a return. So we get initiated into something. It could be detoxing. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be going through a health issue. And then we come back to share it. Like, that's the whole point of this journey. So if anybody here is with us right now and you're in the middle of your initiation, like, just know that you're loved, you're supported, you're on the right path, because you're here with us right now. And share this message, because it's part of your hero's journey. Like, there is actually no ego. And I think that's why, well, there is somewhat of an ego, but the ego is not controlling this. I think that's why some people try to decimate the ego and they try to get rid of the ego. I don't think we can ever do that. I think the ego is here to stay. It's what flavors the soup. It's what gives us life. It's what makes Josh Macin, and Josh Trent. And whoever is with us, it makes you, you. So what is your sight? What is your lens on this? The way that the hero's journey exists and the role of the ego in the hero's journey. How do you balance that in this modern world? You personally, man.
Wow, Josh, man, you're very, very amazing interviewer. Truly, maestro there. So, okay, there's a lot there. So the hero's journey is very real. And I throughout my journey, without labeling my journey as a hero's journey, of course, I was just suffering at those times. I was watching only hero journey stories. That's all I would watch on Netflix or YouTube. All the books I read were all hero's journeys. Dieter Dangler, the guy from in the Vietnam War, there's a book called Dieter Dangler Needs to Fly, or it's a documentary. It's the book Rescue Dawn. the story is the based on the movie is based on this story,
Yeah.
Rescue Dawn, Vietnam POW. The all POW stories, all of these torturous scenarios, and they were the only thing that I could resonate with. Natasha Kampusch, the woman who was like for 13 years tied up on a bed in a cage. These stories were the things that I needed to survive during my journey, because I saw what these individuals went through and the medicine that they had. Viktor Frankl, and hit the depths of his medicine.
Yeah.
And I saw how the depths that somebody goes to, what incarnates in their vessel when they go through it. It's like you're forced to pull down these strengths that otherwise life does not call for. Life does not call for this level of strength when you just have a simple vanilla life. When you go through this stuff, you literally incarnate stuff from your soul, from your ancestors, from the ethers, from the planet, from elemental energies that you cannot access unless you go through torture and suffering. So there was a part of my soul that was watching all of this happen, seeing how strong I became with my word, with my vision, with my message, with my presence. And I was like, wait a minute. If I'm suffering so immensely, but somehow every time I'm in someone's presence, they tell me that they feel good and they feel alive and they feel positive emotions, I'm like, maybe something's happening here that's beyond my control. Maybe I'm going through a metamorphosis that I can't see because I'm so silly here. I'm too simple here. I don't have context. I don't have access to mythological perspective, right? So that's what the hero's journey is that you go through this torture and you incarnate these resources inside of your body that are invaluable, that the planet actually needs. It's beyond what you need. It's beyond what's important for you or what your preferences are as a human, as a single human. It's beyond our preferences, right? No, I don't want to go through the suffering,
Right.
but now I look at who I am now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, of course I had to go through that. It's not it wasn't my preference, but look what I carry now. Look what I give away. You can't give it away unless you go through it.
Mm.
That's what I've learned, Josh. When you go through it, you give it away.
Yeah.
That's how we transform humanity. And that's the hero's journey, right? You go in the depths of hell, and the reciprocating light and truth that comes as a response to that darkness that you go into, it's equivalent to how deep and dark you go.
And I feel like in the middle of that, there's the ego actually being integrated, the full integration of the ego with the call to action and then the response for what the world needs. We all get to make a loving decision how we can use our ego to direct us to serve. Not just like, oh my God, I'm pissed off this is happening. And I'm not shaming that. That's okay too. I've been pissed. I've been pissed when I go through my hardships. It's all good. Like, we're all doing the best we can. But this conversation has been a huge breath of fresh air for so many people watching us. We're going to go through the comments. Let us know if you have any questions for Josh and detoxification and its linked to mental health. Josh, so much ground we covered. What did we miss? What's wanting to come through for you around detoxification and mental health right now?
I would encourage people to begin to clean the colon of old, rotting, putrefied fecal matter and watch as life begins to unfold and change and transform. Watch as this lightness of being begins to come in. Watch as all of these emotional obstacles and problems and all of our things that are in our way of creating the life that we desire, it becomes easier. See, detox doesn't create enlightenment, but there's an expression one of my clients has said, you can't eat your way to God, but you can come close. It's like you can't really connect to God with like just the foods and the detox, but it's like an anchor gets cut from your ship.
Yeah.
The anchor gets cut, and then you still have to navigate the ship. You still have to choose love. You still have to choose integrity. You still have to choose light, right? So what I want to say is like, begin that process of getting rid of all of the junk, the etheric, the astral junk, the physical junk that's in your system. It's not you. You've been identified it with years for years, but it's not you. You are a lightness of being underneath that. You are a soul essence underneath that. It is your birthright to access that and to give it away and settle for nothing less in this lifetime. It's the real life's work. Finding peace in this vessel. All we have, the game of golf is played 6 inches between your ears, right? This is literally all we have. I take it one step further and say we have our bodies, right? We have our bodies. But this is all we have, this orb floating through time and space that has no idea what the fuck is going on.
And we're honoring the grand mystery, Josh Macin. Detoxdudes.com is where people can connect with you and your work. And what's that?
TheDetoxDudes.com.
The Detox Dudes. Thank you for saying that. So I was putting Detox Dudes up there, y'all.
That's my sales page for my course, but my website with all my free information is TheDetoxDudes.com.
Okay, and you can also just search Josh Macin, Detox Dudes. There's so many videos, like millions of views, millions of people that have seen your work, man. I think about the way that we are just so challenged as a species right now. You know, the human experience with the lies and the misconceptions around COVID. We had, 250,000 people get touched by Dr. Bush's mission on Wellness Force just a week ago. If you could leave us with a gift.
Dr. Zach Bush?
Yeah, Dr. Zach Bush.
That's Restore for Life. I was mentioning that. I said, did you have him on?
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I thought you meant Dr. Axe.
No, Dr. Zach Bush.
He's the one. Yeah. The ion. And if you want to pick that up, by the way, you can get it at wellnessforce.com/biome. So it's exactly what Josh is talking about right now. Josh, the question I want to ask you, man, is at this nexus. We have our emotional body, we have our spiritual body, we have our physical body. And in that Venn diagram in the middle, man, where you and I are sitting right now, which is why it feels so good. We're talking about a life well lived. We're talking about wellness. How do you define wellness? What does wellness mean to you with all you've been through?
The integration of the light and the dark, the angel and the animal, the knowing of oneself, the peace of oneself, the acceptance of oneself, vitality, harmony, and connection to earth and connection to the divine.
I'm letting that land for a moment. Thank you for coming on the show, man. The gravity of your words have hit everyone. Please let us know. What are you dealing with? What are you detoxifying emotionally, physically, or spiritually? And until Josh and I see you again, we are both wishing you love and wellness. We'll talk to you soon.
I hope.